students, Mrs. Girot here. Image design. Let's do the Unit 7 assignment where we're going to create a design that looks sort of like this, where you'll have a background color and you'll have 4 different images that you've colorized and applied filters to. Now when you start, you can always click on New, and that will bring up that template that the text is going to talk about when you go to take that quiz for Unit 7. You can pick any of these templates. I recommend if you ever want to print something on just a regular piece of paper, you use the US letter size. That's always smart. Or you can always enter in the pixels that you want for your width and height. Or if you don't think in pixels, which I don't, you can change the dimensions. You could do it in feet. You could do it in inches. So this would be like a 6 by 3 inch canvas. Whatever you want to do. I am not going to do that today though. I am going to open up the image that I want to use. So you do have some options in the resource. You can go File, Open. And in your orientation, hopefully you created your image design folder for yourself and you have your resources saved. Yes, here's some resources here. And Unit 7 has a bear, a clock, a mask, a leopard, and a deer. But like I said, you can be very creative in this class at this point. So let's go ahead and cancel that, and let's go to the Creative Commons. So to get to Creative Commons, you're just going to do a Google search for Creative Commons, and it will pull it right up. And you can look for the search, CC search, Creative Commons search, and type in whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So I had done a bat before, but I think maybe I'll do something different this time, like, how about a lynx, right? Because we're at the Utah Virtual Academy lynx. All right, so I want something that I can modify, adapt, or build upon. Now, if you're doing a website and it's for commercial purposes, you're marketing yourself, you're marketing a product or a service, then you'll need to click on Use for Commercial Purposes. There are different types of media that you can look up. You can look up music or video. I'm looking up images, so I'm just going to Google images here, click. And then you also have options up here. You can decide the size that you want. I'm going to go with medium. Okay, and whoa, there are lots of choices. Now, as you're looking through the choices, you want to pick something that is sharp. Okay, please don't pick something that is blurry. And I really wanted to find something that had like a solid white background. These are transparent backgrounds. When you see these checkers, that means that there is an alpha channel. An alpha channel is a transparent background. And we definitely don't want an alpha channel, but looks like all of these are going to have alpha channels. So I'm just going back up to my search and I'm going to put lynx white background, and I'll see if that pulls up a lynx with a white background. And it did. Perfect. So the only reason I'm doing a white background is because I want to demonstrate something to you with the selection tools today. You don't have to pick any specific kind of background. You can use any image that you want to, as long as it's nice and crisp and sharp. So right click when you find your image, and you're going to save image as, and then you'll want to go in and search for your image design folder in your Unit 7 folder. And it says Lynx Bobcat isolated. I'll just go ahead, Lynx Bobcat white background. That will say more for me. And then I am going back to GIMP, File, Open, and let's open that Lynx Bobcat with the white background. Okay, now that I have done that, I can go to Image, Canvas Size. I'm going to go to Canvas Size because one of the things that you'll notice is that my image is the size of the canvas. When it opened up this picture, it created a canvas that's the same size as this picture, okay? So going into image canvas size is going to tell me how big this image is. This image is 615 by 516 pixels, okay? You can convert that over to inches if you want to and take a look. That's 2 inches by 1, that's like 2 by 2 inches. Looks pretty small, but on the computer screen, it actually looks really good. And the reason why it's looking so good is because the resolution is 300 pixels per inch, which is great. A computer screen only has 72 pixels per inch. So since the resolution is so high, even though the inches are actually small, when you blow it up, it still looks good, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is we want to create a quadriptych, meaning we want 4 of these images. And you don't have to do the exact same 4 images if you want to be a little more creative than this on yours. But here's a really easy way to do that, okay? So I'm going to pull up my calculator. All right, bring that over to the side. And I'm just going to take the width, which is 2.05. I'm going to multiply it times 2 because I want 2 of those across. So I need 4.1, and maybe I want to add a little bit more to the edge. So maybe I'll do, maybe I'm going to make my canvas size 4.4 and add a 0.2. And then for the height, notice how, look at it, created that little space over there showing that it's almost doubled it. For the height, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this 1.72. So we're doing math right now. Whoa. Yeah, if you want to be a graphic designer, you got to know your math. You're going to multiply that by 2 again. And so 3.4. And what did I say? We're going to add 0.2. So let's make this 3. Oh, that was 3.44. Sorry, type it over here. 3.64. Let's add 0.2 to the 3.44. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and resize. And we can't see it all. So do you remember how to be able to see the whole screen, the whole canvas on your screen? You're going to View, Zoom, and Fit Image in Window. Okay, so now you can see, yay, that you've got your canvas and your original image. I'm going to create a new layer. The first layer I want to create is a background. And you can pick any color that you want to for your background. So let's see, here's your foreground color right here. Let's see, if I click on that, you guys remember this? Your foreground color, anytime you do like the fill bucket, if you want to fill something with color, if you want to draw something or you want to paint something, whatever this color in the foreground is, that's what it's going to paint. This is your background. So you have a foreground and background, and you can toggle them by clicking on the arrow. So yeah, usually white's in the foreground, right? And I can't remember which is which. So I'm going to double click or just click on that, and it opens up the box to allow you to change the color. So I will create a purpler background because, and then I can come over here and do a tint. A tint is when you add white, or a shade. A shade is when you add black, or if you just want the pure hue, then you would be up here in the top right hand corner. But I think it will just do a nice little tint for the background of my canvas and click OK. Okay, so there's my foreground color, and if I want to fill it with foreground color, then I'm just going to make sure that's what it says, or you can make it transparent. Okay, so when I make this new layer, I named it background because it is the background, but I'm filling it with the foreground color, which is that right there. So hopefully you're not totally confused. Now, because the background layer is at the top, remember these are stacked and you're looking at them from the top down, you need to click on that layer and click this arrow to drop it down underneath. All right, So perfect. I can go ahead and lock that layer so that I can't make any changes to it or draw on it or do anything funny to it. I'm going to click on this layer where I have my original links image, and I'm going to grab my move tool. You can see what the names of the tools are, but just by hovering your cursor over them. Grabbing the move tool, and I'm just going to click on that. And I don't know if that's working. Let's save. File, save as, and it is going to be your first and last name. Remember, you always put your first and last name at the beginning, Unit 7, and I can just call this links. Unit 7 links. Okay. All right, and then that is a .xcf file. That is a GIMP file, okay? Not an image file. All right, so now that I've got that saved, I'm gonna just grab that and move it over, and that's perfect. So I believe I can just right click on this layer and I can duplicate that layer, okay? And then if I'm clicking and active in that layer, I should be able to grab this and move it over because it's just a duplicate, okay? Now, if I feel like I need to move this other one over a little bit to the left, then I'm gonna have to click on that layer again and move it that way, okay? So next, here's another thing that you could do. When you have one of these selected, you could go edit, copy, or Control C and edit, paste, or Control V. And what that did is it created a floating selection. So if you ever create a floating selection by just copy pasting something, please know that you're not going to be able to do anything until you anchor that layer. Now you can right click on that and anchor it, or you can double click on it and name it links layer 3 and hit enter. Either way, it will anchor it, okay? So now that you have that layer anchored, now you should be able to take your move tool and grab that links and pull it down. And so I can see already that I'm gonna have a problem, that I'm gonna have to raise these up. You can grab things, or you can also use your arrow keys. And notice I can't move that bottom one unless I go back into its layer. If I click on it, I can just use my arrow on the keypad and arrow it that way. And if I wanna move this one, I arrow it up. Now there is another way that you can make another layer. So I'm just gonna take this one that I have and I'm gonna hit Control C to copy, and I'm gonna hit Control V to paste. Oops, that makes a floating selection. I wanted to teach you how not to make a floating selection. So I'm gonna hit Control Z. Okay, selected, hit Control C for copy, and I can go to edit and I can paste as a new layer. Ah, that was nice. The reason that's nice is because it didn't make it a floating layer, and I didn't have to deal with wondering why aren't any of my tools working, and then finally figuring out, oh, I have a floating layer. How do I get rid of that again? You right click on it and you can anchor it, or you can double click, name it, and hit enter. Okay, just in case you were wondering, make sure that you have your move tool, and then you just grab that and move it where you want it. You can use your arrows on your keyboard to make some subtle fine tunes. All right, so there we go. Now I could make this a little more interesting, couldn't I? So I'm gonna take this top image on the right and I'm gonna flip it. Let's see, flip tool, look at that. There it is, or you can do Shift F, let's flip it. Ta-da, flipped. I think I'm gonna flip that bottom one too. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on it and it flips, okay? So when I have that tool selected, any image that I click on, it's gonna flip. Even if my cursor's up here, the reason why it's flipping the bottom one is because of the fact that that's the layer I'm working in, okay? Remember, each of these images is in a different layer. And you can lock layers, so if I don't wanna accidentally flip that again, I can lock it, okay? So now watch. Oh, well, it flipped anyway, even though it was locked. Sorry, don't know why that lock's not working for you. What other types of opportunities do I have here? I have a lot of different things going on. I have transform tools. I have rotate tools. I've got scale tools. I've got shear tools. I've got all kinds of different tools, and you feel free to play around with these tools and figure out what they can do. Now, remember I was telling you that I wanted to do white because I wanted to teach you something. So let me teach you this trick really quick. Now, I know that some of you have already probably done this before, but if you've never changed the background of something, it's really easy to do. So what you can use is this select by color tool. I'm going to click on that. And then when I click over here on the white, because of the fact that the whole thing back here is white, it's going to select, oops, and I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, so let me get to the top left image. There we go. Okay, now when I click on this white, you'll notice that it selected all of the white, and you can see the marching ants going all the way around the links. So now I can change the color of that background, okay, independent of impacting this link. So I can go to my foreground color and I can pick something else like this, okay, and I'll click OK. Now, notice that didn't change anything. All I was doing was changing the color, okay? If I want to fill that in, there's different ways I could do it. I could use a paintbrush, and you've got some different tool options down here where you can increase and decrease the size of your brush. You can change that. Another way to increase and decrease the size of your brush, you can see how big your brush is. When you put your cursor over here, just hover it there, you can see I have a pretty small brush, right? There. It's a little slow. I'm going to click Save. Free up some RAM. I can increase the size of my brush with the brackets on your keyboard. So I can hit the right bracket and it will make my brush larger. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and decrease the hardness of this brush a little bit. Let's see what that does. Oh, see how the edges are a little softer now? So that would be one way to fill in your background. And notice it does not color the animal at all because of the fact that it's not part of the selection, okay? That's one way to fill it. All right, let's go ahead and go to a different layer. I'm going to go to the one here on the right. And another tool that you have here is called the Fuzzy Select tool. And this tool is also really good when you have just a solid color that you're trying to select. Go ahead and click on that. And sure enough, it got all of my white. Now, there is some white in the image, and there was a chance that it might have gotten some of that. So how that is impacted is by this threshold here. The threshold is down at 13. You can grab this and increase it or decrease it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z, and I'll undo what I've done, and I'm just going to show you what happens if I increase this threshold and go to click on this white. Uh-oh, it selected all the white, but it also selected some white on the links. These whites on the links might be a slightly different hue than the pure white background, but that's what threshold does. So hit Control Z, and I'm just going to take this back down to 13 where it was, because that was just perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and click and select the entire background. And then let's go ahead. I like that color. I think I'll keep it, but this time I want to show you how to use the fill bucket or the bucket fill tool. So if you click on your bucket fill tool, notice that nothing automatically happens, okay? You always have to tell it where to fill. So I'm going to click in this area over here, and boom, it filled the whole background. Nice. All right, so those are some examples. All right, here's something else you can do. Let's go to this bottom left corner here, and I am going to click. This time I think I'll just use the color picker. And I'm going to click in the background, all right, and select all of that. And I can actually delete the white. So I'm going to hit my delete key on my keyboard, and it's gone. So now I don't have any background on that one. Love it. Now, sometimes students will turn in work to me and the marching ants are still on there, which was the reason why I said, hey, make a background layer, because when you click on your background layer, that's going to make it, first of all, so that your dotted lines that are always going to be around something are on the outside. And to get rid of marching ants, they're a selection, and that's what this select menu up here is for. Select has anything to do with selection. So if you're trying to figure out how to get rid of those marching ants, go to select and none. Okay? Now you might have also noticed something under here, an invert. Okay? And I'm going to show you what invert does. So these are just all tools, and you're going to have to use your imagination to figure out how to put them to use, right? Let's go to that layer here, the last links that we have, and I'm going to use the color picker, and I'm going to click on the background, and instead of changing the color of the background, let's say I want to change just the links. So I'm going to invert my selection so that instead of having the background selected, the links is selected. So I'm going to do that by going to select, invert. Okay. Now my links is selected. Let's see if I can colorize. Well, let's see if I can. What could I do? Yeah, you guys have colorized before, right? Let's see if I can go in here and I can colorize. Good, I can. I can colorize just the links. I'm gonna get that into a purple hue that is similar. And I can increase the saturation. Remember, saturation is like a sponge. If you have a sponge and you put it in water and it's full of water, that's a saturated sponge. But if you wring the water out, then it becomes desaturated. Well, saturation in computer graphics is like the amount of color, the amount of hue. Hue is color. Okay, so you can increase that and make it more intense. If you completely desaturate something and you completely remove the color, it's going to be black and white, isn't it? So maybe I want to leave that, and I'm going to keep it nice and bright. I'm going to click OK there, and then what did I tell you that I want you to do every single time? I want you to go to brightness and contrast every time, and I want you to bump your contrast up. Of course, this doesn't want to move. There we go. So that you get pure whites and pure blacks. Okay, look at this. This is a bunch of gray tones. There's no pure white, and not in the links. So you don't want things to be looking that way. You want to make sure that you've got pure white, and you can tell what pure white is because you can see it on your computer screen. You can see, like down here, this is pure white, and that little icon at the bottom, or your calculator, is pure white. So you're looking for some parts of your image that have pure white. And you also want pure blacks too, and then the different values of color or shades if you're black and white in between. So I'm going to click OK. That looks great. Of course, this photograph already had great contrast to begin with. It already had pure whites and pure blacks to begin with, so this was a really good one to start with. And let's save what we have. Okay, and let's go to select none and get rid of the marching ants. Now notice that there's a little rectangle around that square, and I don't want that there, so that's when I can go click on the background, and now I can kind of see what my design is doing. So the objectives that are part of this assignment are to take each of your layers and you're going to colorize each layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this top right, and let's go ahead and colorize that one. So I'm going to go click colorize, and I need to pick a different hue, or technically I guess I could go with the same hue if I wanted to, right? This is my design. I can do what I want. I don't know if I'll be able to get that same hue. Okay, that's pretty close. And I can increase the saturation. Okay, and then I can click OK. And then of course, remember, Mrs. Girot wants you to always go brightness, contrast, and bump up your contrast and get pure whites. Okay, so there we go. It's colorized. I can go to this bottom left one, and I can go to colors, colorize, and I can colorize that one if I want to get it similar. I'm trying to make a little more of a cohesive design here so that they're not all totally different, but you go ahead and do it how you want. This is just me noodling around. Remember, brightness and contrast every time. Okay, and you can play around and decrease your brightness. If you do that, though, remember you might have to adjust your contrast in some way so that you're still getting your pure whites. Okay, so maybe I'm just going to mess around with that and make that a little different, and then go to my top left one and colors, colorize, and find my hue there, increase my saturation, go to my brightness and contrast, play around with that. Okay, so each of my images is a little bit different. Yeah, you gotta have pure whites. Okay, I'm gonna go with that one. All right, so go back down to your background so that you don't have any little dash lines. And I think it looks fantastic, but you're not done. The next step after you click save is to apply filters to each of them. So you're gonna I'll stop with the top left, start with, and you're going to the filters menu at the top, and there are just a ton of different filters that you can use. And the goal for this assignment is for you to actually go through and look at them. So for example, here's Pixelize, and you will get a dialog box that'll allow you to increase or decrease the pixelation. Okay, and this one's pretty cool with probably about 7. And click OK. So there's one filter, and go to your next image using it by clicking on its layer, and just play around with them. I know I'm not going into playing around with them a lot, but that is because you'd be bored out of your mind if I just sat here and went through all of these. So you go through them. Okay, and okay, where was I? Looking for a fun filter. How about, oh, let's see. Artistic ones are my favorite. So I'm going to Cubism. That's cool. Probably decrease the size a little bit of those. And tile saturation is adjustable, so you can play around with that. Okay, all right, click OK on that. Next layer. Okay, I'm going into generic. I'll try a distance map. Let's see if this does anything. Maybe I can go in now and colorize it. I can. So that'll work. I can still get my color, and then of course I'm going to go to my brightness and contrast and see if I can recuperate some of my whites. Have to adjust my brightness a little bit here if I can. You wouldn't think it'd take this long to get your filters on there, right? How about water pixels? Oh, that's pretty. Oh, I love water pixels. Got my background. I like the fact that it's the links, that I'm using school colors, that it feels unified, it feels cohesive. Even though I have a variety of textures happening, there's cohesive unity within my color choices. It looks really good, and I've got pure whites and pure blacks and lots of shades in between. So I'm going to save. Okay, and this is the GIMP file that I'm saving, and the name's at the top, your first and last name, unit 7 links.xcf. If you forgot to save yours with your first and last name, you can just go ahead and go save as right now and rename that. And then you're going to export your JPEG. So click export as, okay, And please remember that when you're exporting, you have to be able to see your image, okay? Because you're gonna have to check to make sure that your image looks good when you optimize it, okay? So I am going to change the extension here from a ping to a JPEG. I can do that simply by backspacing 3 times and deleting the PNG, and I can just type in JPG for JPEG. I can do that, or if I leave the PNG there, I can go down here to the bottom where it says select file type and click that little plus, and then I can just scroll down and look for JPEG, which is alphabetized. And when I do that, you notice up here, it automatically changed the extension to JPEG for me. Now remember, you need to be able to see what you're doing, so slide this over like I have, and then click export. And then your file optimization box is going to come up, okay? And you want to show preview in a new window. And it tells you what your file size is when you do that. So the file size is 392 kilobytes, which is fine. I usually just want you guys to make sure that they're below 500 kilobytes. You can go smaller though, and this is the quality slider. Right now it's at 90%. If you go up to 100%, look what it does to your file size. It makes it 1.3 megabytes. So that's definitely too big. The purpose of optimizing your file size is that it's going to transfer really fast. For example, when you're trying to upload this to the Dropbox, if you want it to just upload in a snap, you want to make sure that this number is as low as possible. So I'm going to start sliding it down, and we're going to be looking over here at the picture to see how it looks. At what point does it start to break up and start to pixelize and look bad? Oh, now it's looking really bad. Okay, but I don't need to go down that low, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bump this up to 200. Because 200 kilobytes is still small, but it's going to have some integrity to it. So that's about 68%. I could just go ahead and type in 70% there, and that gives me 213 kilobytes. I feel good about that. I'm going to go ahead and click export. Perfect. So now I can submit those to the discussion. Let me show you how that looks. So you'll click on the discussion, and you'll start a new thread. And you'll name it. So you could name it Unit 7, Unit 7 Links Design. Or you could just call it Links Design. Whatever you want to call it. It's not that important. And then what you'll do is you'll insert image with this little camera icon, and you'll click on My Computer, and then you'll click Upload, find your Unit 7 folder, and you can click on your image, your JPEG, the one that you can see, and click Add. This image is decorative. Click there, click OK, and it shows up there. Now my cursor is at the end. I can click and drag that and make that bigger, and I'm going to hit Enter. And then I'm also going to this Insert Stuff. Click there, and go to your computer. Choose File. And this time you want to insert your .xcf GIMP file, okay? Now, if yours doesn't have a GIMP logo, we need to get your computer set up so that it opens these files as a GIMP, and I'll show you how to do that. But for now, yours might have an internet browser icon. Be looking for that browser icon and the .xcf at the end. You can also change your file view to list or to details. And when you do details, the nice thing about that is you can slide this over and see your entire file name. And you can also see what type of file it is. So I am looking for this one right here, the links.xcf file, and I can go ahead and click open. All right, and then I'm going to upload. And it's asking me for a link text. So this is where you can put your first and last name again, and you can put your Unit 7 links if you want to, okay? Or you can say my links GIMP file. If you want to put your first and last name, that would probably be good. That way when I go to save it, it's got your first and last name at the beginning. So go ahead and click Insert. Perfect. Students can see that that's your links GIMP file. I can see that that's your GIMP file when I go to grade it. And then you're going to click Post. Okay, awesome. And when students go in here to look at the discussions, they can click More and see your post. So pretty. Yep. And then, oh, we've got other students. I'm not going to put it on this video. Okay, and then let me show you how to switch your GIMP files over. So go into your folders, okay, and find one of your GIMP files. Right click on your GIMP file and you're going to open with, and then if GIMP's not listed here, do choose another app. And when you do choose another app, you can do more apps here and scroll down and find your GIMP, okay? And I found mine. And then you'll always use this app to open your GIMP files. So you'll click there. And this is what's going to make it so that whenever you save a GIMP file, it has the GIMP logo. And when you double click to open a GIMP file, it opens inside GIMP, not in your internet browser, for those of you who have been wondering why your files have been opening in a browser. But if that's not the case, if yours are saving as a GIMP automatically, that's awesome. But that's how you can fix that if you need to. Ding. Whoops. All right, so thanks for watching this extra awesome, super long Unit 7 tutorial.